Okay, I can start, do roll call, Nicole, to establish quorum.
Okay,
So Nicole Green
here.
and Justin Van Zerper.
Present.
Okay. Quorum is established.
Okay, thank you. So welcome everybody to our meeting today for the Policy and Budget Subcommittee on February the 17th. So we can go ahead and get started with this. Since we all know each other, we don't have to do introductions, but I will open up if there's any announcements. No. Okay. Seeing none, we can go to public comment if there's any items that's not on the agenda for today. No, very small group today.
I was just going to ask, Monique, are you going to talk about in-person meetings at some point in time in the agenda?
We haven't done it on these agendas, but we did definitely send it out to the members, the updated Brown Act. So we did send it out to them to talk about it, as they have questions. But no, it wasn't put on the agendas, but it was sent out to every member.
So I will just reiterate what's been sent out to everybody, that due to state law and due to the rescinding of the state of emergency by the governor, we are going back to in-person meetings starting March 1st, and that's all advisory bodies as well as the Board of Supervisors and all their subcommittee meetings. They will be hybrid, which allows the public to zoom in, and the rules that were sent out by Monique are pretty comprehensive and also complex. So if you have any questions, I know that there's lots of people who can help clarify, but meeting spaces are available all over, and there are a variety of other efforts by the Board of Supervisors to make it as easy as possible on advisory body members as well as the public. And the Board of Supervisors has committed to keeping meetings hybrid for the public, because many meetings have a higher percentage of people, or a higher participation from people from the public. So that's my announcement.
So this is Nicole. So we do have questions. Monique, we come back to you, or because I did see
Yes.
it. I must say I did see it, and now that Jill's talking, I am writing down questions.
Yes, so definitely reach out to myself or Patrice.
Okay.
I believe that was on the email that I sent to everyone. So yeah, definitely. I've gotten responses back from people stating that they would love to be back in person in March, but I haven't had any specific questions, but definitely reach out to us if you have any questions or concerns about the in-person starting in March.
Monique, do you have access to that list that Jill just shared about available meeting spaces?
No, I don't have a list for available meeting spaces, but I know that we have been researching the different spaces based on before the pandemic, when ORJ was, or when the meetings were meeting in person, and also the different public offices that we would use. But I don't have a list of the available meeting spaces particularly, but we are working on the logistics to ensure that we have the space available.
Understood. Because Nicole, which part of the county are you in?
I'm in East.
Okay. Gotcha.
But yeah, I'm in East where I live, but in reference to working, I work in West, Central, and East.
Okay.
So it just depends on that particular day where it falls and where the meeting's held is where I'll be. But I live over here in Contra Costa County.
Okay.
Do you know, not to change subjects, but well, I'm on the same subject. Would there be a discussion when the spaces are located with the committee to kind of, or is it just going to be a location picked?
It'll be a location selected, but like I said, if you have questions, you can reach out to us. But we're working with our IT department to ensure that we have the capacity to do in-person and hybrid. So it really is based on the availability of the locations. I think prior to the pandemic, the CAB meetings were held at 50 Douglas Street, where I'm located. But I don't know if we have the capacity to hold every meeting there. but that is one of the spaces. And then I believe maybe at the CAO's office, but I'm not 100% sure of all the locations, but
Okay.
we're working on those logistics now.
Well, it's exciting. I haven't had a chance to actually experience a in-person CAB meeting since I've been on the board. So it'll be nice to see everybody in person. Okay, I'll go back and I don't have like any questions per se. It's more of just reading, making sure I read the bylaws and understand what the rules and stuff are. So I'll go back and look at that again. Thanks for bringing that up, Jill. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Joe.
Okay, awesome. Any other announcements? Okay, seeing none, we'll go to the third item on our agenda today, which is the approval of the minutes from our January 27th meeting. So that starts on page 4. So we'll go ahead and review those.
That's so cool that you link the YouTube.
Yeah, I noticed that
so
today.
That's really
I was like, that's me.
I can make a motion to approve the minutes.
Okay, so I have a motion to approve. And do I, since it's just me and him, I second motion to approve the minutes from our January 27th CAB meeting. I'm not CAB, excuse me, Policy and Budget Subcommittee.
Then you can see if there are any public comments.
Is there any public comments from the minutes from our last meeting? And seeing none, we can go ahead and vote.
Okay, I'll do the roll call. Nicole Green
Aye.
and Justin Van Zerber.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. Okay, moving along to item number 4, which is discuss CAB presentations to CCP. Not sure if y'all had a second to look at it, but this was the items I was mentioning on our last meeting that I thought would be some good information. It starts on page 7. My goal was just to kind of give you and Lanita more of an idea of what we were focused on. Very excited to have you guys part of the subcommittee, but you know, just wanted to make sure. It's kind of hard coming in the middle, so wanted to give you as much information as possible on what we were looking at. I really wanted to start on it starts on page 7. I'm not sure if you had a chance to look at it or not, but I really wanted to focus on page 11. Well, let you know to focus on page 11 was where we kind of broke down Crawford, myself, and Lila in reference to the recommendation of CCP around our major focuses, which was the housing, behavioral health, employment, pre-release, and engagement. And we kind of went into more depth in reference to how we're hoping that are recommending the funds to be used, as well as the excess funds that was available. So I thought that would just be helpful as we kind of go through this year and trying to make our recommendations for the upcoming budget. So we can kind of glance at that for a bit. Did you have a chance to look at it, Justin, at all before?
Yeah, I have. It was really helpful, Nicole. I appreciate kind of redirecting back to this document.
Was there any questions about it?
No, I think my overarching question is just kind of more on the process side of things. So I think we're creating this like this document that is like our goal of what we expect or want the investments, or how we want the investments to be made. Are there more specifics with regard to like we want to see it in staff time, or we want to see it in allocation of mental health? Like
So we haven't gotten there yet. That's our goal.
Oh, sweet.
Okay. So last year we really didn't break it down because we felt like we couldn't yet. And that's where we came with the work groups. We'll like more work groups from individuals that are professionals in those fields to gather more data so that we can actually say, you know what, based on the information, we think that money should be moved in employment, or maybe this area needs more of this. So that's what we're hoping to achieve this year. So our goal is you know, getting working closely with programs and services, getting that feedback from the surveys, hopefully the work groups, as well as the full CAB, so that we can come together and say, here are the recommendations in reference to, or based on our recommendations, we want to move money this way. So we didn't do that last year. The only thing that we asked for was a 5% increase.
Okay.
Yeah, we didn't feel comfortable, or we had the same question that you had, was how can we move money and not know? So we're hoping to collect data.
Awesome. That's wonderful.
And Jill,
so
yeah,
we're
thank you, Jill, way then.
And so we're going to use this kind of to help us inform our recommendation for questions that are gathered from the programs and services survey. Am I following that?
No, we can, but the what we asked for was the CCP was outside work groups for like housing and employment.
Okay.
And for example, for employment, to gather individuals within a community such as like H3 or the AODS, behavioral health, to work together and work together to collect data in housing and figure out where those gaps are.
Got it.
So that when we look at the budget, we can say, okay, for example, I'm gonna throw it out there as an example. We recommend that this amount of money be moved towards, I don't know, behavioral health for additional shelter beds, for example, something like that.
Yeah.
So we just wanted more information in order for us to make those recommendations. This document was what Crawford, myself, and Lila put together for the CCP meeting.
Right.
To kind of break down, because if you go back to page 7, it just gives a summary of what those recommendations are.
Mm-hmm.
And then we decided as a group to break it down in more depth on what we're asking for.
Awesome.
And Jill, I'm sorry, your hand was up. I apologize.
No, absolutely. You guys have your discussion. I was just going to support what you just added in, which was to work with those divisions to find, to share the data about where the gaps are and to get recommendations from them on where they feel the funding would most benefit and under what programming, if they have suggestions. Because there will be a larger discussion about those excess reserves. And so just in this group being prepared to have that input and working with the departments to ensure the funding goes to those areas that are most needed.
Thank you.
Helpful, Jill. And Nicole, just for clarification, I don't really remember, we discussed our work plan last month. Is that outlined in our work plan as well, that's kind of our next few steps, is meeting specifically with these departments to assess that and gather data?
It wasn't at first, and then we will look at that at the
later in the agenda.
It wasn't at first, but I know that I believe, hopefully, I think I added a bullet for that, but I know that's something we wanted to add on there, but it wasn't on there initially, no.
Okay, awesome.
Jill, I do have a question for you. I know at our full cap, I believe you said that the CCP approved the previous budget already? Or did I mishear?
Yeah, well, so they had approved that, and then it went to the Public Protection Committee, and then they added back in over $1 million for the public defender. But instead of for Stand Together, they did fund that a very small amount, something less than 200,000, because they determined, I think 17% of that population is involved in the criminal justice system. Okay. But the other $1 million is going toward the 3 public defenders that were hired. So basically they're just swapping general funded positions for AB 109 funded positions that can be funded through AB 109. And then Stand Together is being funded through the general fund of the Board of Supervisors.
And this may be a silly question, and forgive me for that, but as I'm learning. So since they approved that, so what about, and this may be a Patrice or a Monique question as well. So how will we know when the committees are the workshop, the work committees that we asked for from CAB are created, so that we can ensure that a CAB member is part of that conversation? Oh, go ahead, Monique.
So I talked to Patrice about that, and she said that the conversation has not taken place yet, but you will be notified. CAB members will be notified when that happens. Just like with Measure X, we keep you up to date on that. Okay. So we will definitely bring that to your attention once that is implemented.
Okay. Okay, perfect.
And let me just add in, because I remembered I reached out to Paul Reyes about the excess funds in the AB 109 budget, and he said that the plan is to take that discussion to the next CCP meeting, which is to be held sometime in either March or April. There's no date set at this point in time.
Okay, perfect.
Thanks, Jill.
So Justin, hearing that, I think as of right now, as we work on these things, it'll be the information we get back from programs and services or any other data because those two main items are important to our process and decisions for this year with the budget. So, okay.
So Nicole, are they tasked with meeting with those departments, or does that fall within our subcommittee, or both?
Or who task? Sorry.
The programs and service subcommittee.
No. We just right now, as part of our work plan, and one of the items is for us to join the programs and services subcommittee, because that information, that feedback from the survey and from them helps us with our decisions.
Right.
So the three main things that we were looking at, of course, is working with programs and services, being part of these work groups regarding our recommendations, and then the XX funds to help us figure out how our recommendations for the upcoming budget. So as of right now, two of our main items are still pending. So all we have left is the information from the programs and services are the full cap, is what I'm hearing. So just trying to make sure I stay on top of each tab. And we'll go over this again with Lanita. Did that answer your question?
It does, yeah.
I'm learning with you. So
no, it's great. I just have a lot of curiosity and a lot of questions, and I know some of them won't be answered, and that's okay.
No, I appreciate your questions. So that's what that section was for. And again, I just wanted to be able to give you and Lanita that information. Any other questions from the committee, from you at all?
No, I think I'm good on this.
Okay. Any questions from I didn't even talk anymore, from the public? No? Okay. So we can move on to item number 5, which is to review the CAB 2023-2024 budget recommendations, which is attachment 3, page 15. So again, I wanted to put in what we worked on last year, so you guys can have an idea of that. So I wanted that information in there. I want to give you an idea of the documents that we kind of reviewed. There's some more documents that I'm looking for, and I'll work on that with Monique. I realized that today. So this starts on page 15. Let's go ahead and start there and kind of review those. So it's page 15 through 19. And was there any questions that you may have, Justin, regarding these pages? So these are the documents that we will be using as we're working on our recommendation for the next upcoming years.
And so this was submitted to CCP for fiscal year 23-24, right? Correct. Okay. And that's what you're saying has not yet been approved?
Yes, so that has been approved, but that isn't the most recent document. That's not the document that went to PPC. So that 1,060,000 that was taken out of Stand Together is now under, or maybe is this the document, Monique, that came out of PPC? Because it looks like it was added into the salaries and benefits part of the public defender's office.
Yeah, I think this might be the most current one, but I'm not 100% sure.
Because I was thinking it was more like 6 million. So I'll look that up real quick as you're going through this, but nothing else has changed on that except for public defender.
Great. And what I think might be helpful in the retreat, we were talking about the baseline spending versus our actual budget. So can you explain that a little bit more to me? I see this column for the baseline. Is that supposed to zero out with what we assume is coming from the state for that fiscal year?
Jill, can I rely on you to help me with that, or Monique?
I'm sorry, what did you ask?
The column that's labeled baseline, is that supposed to align with what we assume we're going to receive from the state and zero out?
No, baseline means baseline is what the baseline budget was the previous year. So that's where you start from. And so that's what they got the previous year. baseline always includes whatever cost of living adjustment is in the bargaining unit
Got
for
it.
that department. So it may not match 100% from the previous year, like we have 5%. So that would be the new baseline, including that cost of living adjustment. And they almost, we don't, it's not a zero budget.
Okay.
Each department asks, and then if the asks are over, that's where the discussion happens at CCP.
Understood. And when does information come from the state with regard to how much will be received for that fiscal year?
So that's usually part of the October information, or at the very least in November at the first CCP meeting, where the Paul Reyes from the CAO's office gives the overview.
Okay.
And then they have the estimated amount that they'll get from the state.
Got it. And how does that align with this baseline budget of 35 million?
It doesn't. This budget has been overspending
Okay.
year over year, and for a long time it looked like we were going to exhaust the reserves in like 2 or 3 years, but actually what we have gotten from the state has been increased over what was anticipated.
Okay.
So that's why the reserves keep growing greater and greater, and that's why there's going to be a discussion on the, and then with the pandemic, not all departments were able to spend down their monies as anticipated.
Right.
So then there was even more of a bump in the, well, there's reserves, and then there's over the reserves amount. And so there's quite a large chunk of change in that unspent category at this point in time. So they're not concerned about over budgeting what our actual income is this year.
Understood. Do you know offhand what like the estimate is for the 23-24 from the state?
Yeah, I could tell you in a minute. I'm looking up on the PPC budget to see what that was all presented last year, so you don't have the benefit of all that information.
Yeah. Awesome. And maybe there's a document that I could be referred back to get some of that institutional knowledge.
Okay, so here I have the budget that went to the public protection, and the bottom line public defender total is 6.4, a little over 6.4 million. So their actual amount that they asked for is 1.952 in that second column from the right. And then the actual decrease in stand together is 880,000. So that this budget sheet, it's just slightly different, but other than that, every other amount is the same.
Okay.
Is there a document that, is there a recording for that previous meeting, or a document that provides that information that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll send it to you.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks so much, Joe.
Those are good questions, Justin. Thank you. See, that's why I was glad you was on the board, because you have the numbers brain. You're good with this. I love the questions. Okay, any other questions?
This makes sense to me, and yeah. Okay. Thank you.
So we'll keep going on it. So, I had a quick question, and because I know we went over a lot of documents last year, and I apologize if I keep mixing them up. But is there a document that break down, for example, like and it's probably the document I asked you about earlier, Monique, but I know there was one where, for example, like Health Right 360, there's subcontracts underneath that, and it kind of broke down everything, not just, does that make sense?
Yeah, probably. I'm sure we probably have a document from Health Right 360 and their subcontractors, which would be like Miss Shirley's or whomever they subcontract with. We should have that information, but I don't have it handy.
Yeah, no, it was something that looked like this. It had the I have to go back a couple of calls. Because as I was looking through this, I was visualizing the documents that we looked at last year, but it was showing where the monies are being allocated for like Rubicon Laos, Men and Women of Purpose.
Mhm.
And it was an old one because it still had Shelter Inc. on there, but it broke down the other programs underneath each as well.
Mhm.
I
And
have
it
to,
could be their quarterly reports, because I know when they send the quarterly reports in to us, it may have that breakdown as well,
okay.
which we could always bring that in for the next meeting if you like. We just have to locate them.
Yeah, if you can, and I'm gonna have to just take a day and kind of go back to, because I just know it was a particular call we had with Patrice, and she was trying to explain instructions on what we're supposed to do last year. And we went over quite a few documents, and we was going through each of the contracted programs and it outlined detail. I'll see if I can find it too on what I'm referring to. I'll have to go through my folder. Okay. Any questions from the committee members before we move on? No? Any questions from the public? No. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to item number 6 on our agenda, which is our work plan. So last call, and it starts on page 20. On our last call, we had a brief discussion, and we requested for Monique to send it out in a Word document for us to each add our, for us to each individually add some key points to it. Our goal was try to elaborate on the expected outcomes a tad bit more. So let's go ahead and start with number 1. So as we reviewed our work plan last call, we wanted to really expand on that.
I'm gonna stop sharing so I can pull up the Word document, but you can go on and talk.
We really wanted to expand on that outcome for the first one because it wasn't broad enough. So initially we had our goal was to identify what degree of specific demographics, such as race, ethnicity, age, gender, and identify the ability of those that are experiencing homeless and uninsured and mental health status. We wanted to go in more depth for that. So today our goal is to kind of review what we each added and kind of agree on those outcomes, what we want and what we don't want, and hopefully finalize our work plan.
Great.
Okay, so let's see. Please,
So what I did, Nicole, is I put in what you had in red as far as what you'd like to see, and I put what Justin had in green.
okay.
And I think Lanita may not have been feeling well because she did reach out to me and we talked about it. So I think she may have been out sick at that time.
Okay. I put a lot on there. I just was, I mean,
No,
I
you're
didn't
making me
expect
look
all-
bad, Nicole.
Well, I was thinking that you were going to have like 20,000 bullets. So I was trying to keep up with you, Justin. I'm being honest. I'm going, okay, Justin had a lot of topics. That's how he does. And as I told Monique, I could have been repeating myself, even though you do see a lot of red. It was I was trying to think as I was typing. So if they're the same thing, we can combine it. If not, I'm just trying to throw things out there. So I said review research of those being served with everyone online services to help identify their inequities, identify our individuals who have mental health disabilities. And well, that was going with the inequities. They could take that out, I guess. Identify the inequities based on individual barriers, such as, so you see how all three kind of come together. Doesn't matter how they're worded, but really breaking out a little bit more. I was trying to go off what we talked about last time and really focus, really say what we're looking at, and elaborate on that more, to make more sense. So. Services, housing, employment, disabilities. So if there's an easier way to just grab all that together.
So in this section, it's only the red here. So you mentioned take that away to identify how you, so actually delete that.
Well, yeah, because I'm saying the same thing, the next one.
Okay.
So Nicole, the four identifies, do you think that they're already part of the first original text? And maybe we could just expand on that to include any that may be missing.
Yes, we could do that. I was trying to do that. See, I remember what you said. I was attempting to do that in multitask, and this is the outcome of that. So if there's a better way to let's see, identify to what degree specific demographics such as race, Asian, and possibility of those experiencing homelessness. So review the search and data findings on where it exists. I just feel like there is a simpler way to see, not simpler way, but I agree with the comment that you made on our last call, in reference to what are our actual outcomes in this section. What is it that we really want to do? Identify to what degree specific to race, such as race, and Asian. I'm thinking, you guys.
No, it's great. Do you think this is where we could include some, like our outcome is meeting with those different departments?
Scroll down a little bit, Monique. I think the very last one. So I did put, let's see, such as, I should have put the work groups. I thought I did. So yes, that will be an outcome in reference to meeting with the work groups to help identify I thought I put that at the bottom. So it was supposed to be identify the gap in services such as housing, employment, and disability by working with those work groups. Because that's really our outcome in this area. And I was trying to find the best way to say it, is really gathering that data from those groups to help identify those gaps.
Yeah.
So are we okay with just adding that at the end of it? Because we can take out, I'm pretty much repeating myself in red at the bottom. And the part that's really missing is us working with those work groups to identify the gaps in those 3 sections at the bottom.
So let me ask you this. So these here, are those being deleted?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, what about this section right here?
So, Justin, I'll use your feedback on that. I'm not good with putting the work together, but what I was trying to pretty much say was trying to identify that one of the recommendations that we focus on is that we noticed that with COVID that there's a big gap of services for those that are experiencing like AOD and mental health and what those barriers are. So one of our outcomes is to identify those. I know Patrice mentioned that at our lab, not our lab, at the retreat about what the data has showed them in reference to the AB 109 population. So I was hoping that one of our outcomes is to be able to identify that and provide that information. Like what is that gap of those that have co-occurring disorders, AOD, mental health. And I know it mentioned at the top, but not really what I was looking for. Does that make sense?
Yeah, maybe it's as simple as like us compiling and sharing that with the larger CAB committee. Because the way I'm reading this document is the far left column is what we're going to do, which is what you're alluding to, right? We're going to go and understand where those gaps are. And then that third column is what is the result of that? And I think if we try to encourage ourselves to compile it and present it to others, might be a way of holding us accountable.
Okay, I agree with that.
How do you feel about that?
I agree with that. And hearing you say that maybe under key action item is where we add an additional item in reference to the work groups. Because that's an actual action item, and then the outcome from that. Because that's different.
Say that again, I didn't hear you.
I'm sorry. I said, so under key actions, maybe we add an additional key action step in reference to the work groups, because that's an actual action item.
Yeah, I think that's great.
So it would be the work groups. Action step is to, I get tongue twisted. I guess work with the recommended work groups for housing improvement and
To
disability.
collaborate with the work groups?
Yeah, to collaborate with the work groups.
Hold on 1 second.
Maybe collaborate and assess. Because we're really looking at trying to gather that information that's not yet documented, right? Or is it that we're collecting information that's already been documented?
It's not yet documented.
Okay.
So then we could take out the red I had under outcomes because I did it differently, Monique. I did more of action steps than outcomes when I wrote
So
it out.
take away all of this?
Yep.
Will any of this be over here or no?
Collaborate and assess with the work groups, yes, to identify the gap in services such as housing, employment, and disabilities.
That's great. That's really clear for me, Nicole.
Housing, and what else did you say?
Employment and disabilities. Sorry, Jess, I have to brain dump, and then when I talk to, then it comes together for me.
I'm the same way.
Okay, and then take all this red out, right?
Yes,
Mhm.
Okay.
perfect. Okay, so then it was compile and present the data to, it was, oh, I'm sorry, under outcomes to full cap.
Compile and present data to full cap.
Yep.
And is there a work to date? Like, when would you like this to be done? Like, is it gonna be done? Like March through July? Is this a part of the, well, yes, so when is it could be done like, ongoing throughout the year?
So can we say ongoing? Because I mean, one of the key things right now is we don't really even have a date for the work groups or anything to know, to be able to successfully put a timeline.
Okay, and
Just
I'm gonna put this in a different color just so I know it's a change. I'm gonna highlight it in yellow just so I can keep track of what I've updated,
Okay.
and then I'll change it. Oh, the timeline says ongoing here. Work to date, I guess that would be blank for right now because you haven't done anything yet.
Right.
So we'll say that's ongoing, and then here,
And for responsible, it would be all.
okay, all.
Do we update this on a certain cadence? And do we share this just internally or with the full cap? Because I love the work to date column. I think that's really helpful.
Yeah.
It holds
I mean-
holds us accountable, but just kind of curious on
You,
previous years.
you certainly, I don't know what they've done in the past, but you certainly can share some of this during the report out,
Right.
you know, because that would be an update of what you talked about. So for instance, today, when we do the report out for the full cab on March 9th, you can take some of these key items and put them in your report out and say this was part of our discussion. You could even include the work plan to show it to them. We could do that as well if you like. So it would be up to the members and Nicole as the chair to determine what you'd like to share as your part of your report out during the full cap meeting.
Understood. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's all that I have to add for that section. Anything else you want to add, Justin, or?
No, I think you've definitely strengthened it. I think that's great.
We strengthen it.
But your brain dump is what led us to that. So thank you.
I swear, I was thinking about you when I was typing this. Okay.
Okay, so we can go to the next section.
Okay. Let's see, some new sort of established. I like what Justin has in green. Identify gaps in Coca County.
You wrote the same thing.
I know, but I like the way you said it. So I'll go with I like the way you said it.
And I think your last comment, the gather information, is part of goal 2, if I'm not mistaken.
Where?
You have gather information from program and services subcommittee to assist with budget recommendation. And then the first key action under goal 2 is review the community needs highlighted in program services subcommittee survey
Oh, I
results.
couldn't see it on her screen. I'm okay. Let me gather it. You're correct. Okay, take that off. Okay, we could take that one off. The last one I did, the make recommendations to program and services for survey questions for CBO. I put that there based on our last discussion. I mean, I was trying to make my outcomes on my points is based on our last call, and we were talking about how Lanita was asking how can she, make recommendations or talk from a public standpoint. So that's what made me put that bullet there. I mean, there could be a different way. We could say it as an outcome or maybe report back recommendations made to programs and services from the survey or something like that, like report back to, yes, we're collaborating with them on programs and services, but some type of outcome where we're reporting back the information from that call to help us with our process. That makes sense?
Can you say it again?
I said maybe we can make it as an action item, not make recommendations, but more of like a report back other recommendations made. So I know Lanita is going to join a call or one of us, but make sure that when yes, we're collaborating with them, but reporting back that information as an outcome so that we can have those report-ins. I know there's sometimes someone may join our call as well, but.
Yeah, so maybe it's as simple as changing make recommendation to report back survey questions from program and service subcommittee.
So for that one, Monique, make it a report back. Recommendations and questions from subcommittee, the programs and services. You can, sorry, wait to get done.
Is that okay? I'm
Yes.
not sure. Okay.
Take out that and then take out the one below it.
Gather information.
Yep, take that one out. And then we'll stick with Justin's green one, and you could take out the one above it because he said it. I like the way he said it.
So take out this one at the
Take out
top of
that
the
one and
bullet.
the one above it. Yes.
Well, the one above it is his green.
I know the one that one.
Right here, this red.
Yeah.
Okay.
So identify gaps in public county's criminal justice system. The gaps to
So we're keeping this here.
yes,
Yeah,
ma'am.
I like both of
Okay,
those.
I'm gonna put that in yellow just so I can do the formatting.
Okay.
Okay.
And the person responsible was Anita.
Okay.
The next one's on hold, so we'll go past that one.
Well, this on hold, I think, was from last year. I just put it, I'm not sure. I can't.
No, it was
remember.
the last call because I think, and
Oh,
Joe.
because of our job.
Yep.
Right, okay, so we'll keep that on hold.
Okay.
Right, okay.
Should develop and inform budget based on community needs and. Shannon, you could take that right out.
This
After
one,
after I heard Justin's explanation, I
okay,
pretty much is rewriting the same outcomes.
okay.
But I think it's good to reiterate, like, it's helpful, right? You're making sure we're not missing anything, because I think we had a really good conversation, like you were alluding to. So I think this is really helpful.
Okay,
Review. So I added a few items here just based on last year and our conversation. So this section, the next one is review the quarterly financial reporting. Meetings to ensure fundings are being expended and extended. We'll see ongoing monitoring and use of the funding, which is an outcome. So I put these as outcomes based on the work that we did last year. So what I was thinking more of how in reference to like how we did for the access funds and just for the SS funds, excuse me, and our recommendations, keeping an eye on monitoring the use of the AB online funding, like looking at the budget, looking for areas on where we, based on the financial reporting, where the funds can be reallocated. For example, after we work, that will come from the work groups, right? So once we identify based on the program and funds, making that recommendations how money should be moved around. So keeping an eye on those areas. Again, I'll give an example, just throw out there, for example, like behavioral health, where we notice that funds are being used, for example, shelter beds, a high amount, maybe based on the data that we receive, funds could be allocated somewhere else. That's where my mind was thinking with that.
I like your top two. I would change or and make it and align with CAB recommendations.
Okay.
And then your third one, Nicole, do you think that's included in the second one?
Yes, now that I'm reading it. So you take that one out. And let's keep the green one to develop on. Okay, I'm okay with that.
Do you think, now that I'm looking at it more closely as well, the last one that I had added, do you think that should be part of the task below? Because what we're doing here is,
Yes, it should, because the next one is the
yeah,
is reference to the budget itself.
Yeah.
And then for members, we want to say, go back up, please, Monique. Ongoing monitoring, would it be, let's see. It would be all of us, right, on here?
that's kind of our job.
Pretty much.
That's the nuts and bolts of it, right?
Right.
what about this one here? We didn't make any changes here, but would that be all as well?
Yeah, I think that's all of us.
Yeah, it's all the review and see needs.
When do we actually make the budget recommendations?
I think I know in October is when you when CCP sends it out. So I think it's probably around that time.
It was October, November. It was around November.
Yeah, you review those sheets in October to see what the budget is and the baseline and then in November is when the presentation goes to the CCP, the November CCP meeting.
Wonderful.
When do we have the, do we normally have the survey results?
That was done in July. Christina presented it to Programs and Services in July. So I think they start on it probably like around April, May, and June, and then the final was done in July.
Okay, I just want to make sure our timeline is still correct. Okay,
And then she also presented it to the full CAB as well.
right, okay.
So
Include this price for balance.
So this was just from the conversation we had last time with Jill, with trying to utilize staff within the county to help us understand best practices for the expenditure of excess dollars.
Okay. Beaver County staff, okay. And who would the, and then, I'm sorry if it's a silly question, who would the county staff be? Jill, would that be Paul Reyes or it will be the,
No, so rather than make a recommendation to like behavioral health, say you should fund XYZ, the goal is to meet with behavioral health to
Oh, good.
say, we see gaps in the system in these areas. What do you suggest?
okay,
And then the same would be for each one of those. Health, housing, and homeless would be the housing. And I can't remember the other categories. I don't have them right in front of me at the exact moment I flipped my agenda. Hang on. So housing, you would meet with H3 to talk about, housing for the criminal justice population. Behavioral health would be the behavioral health division. Employment would be the workforce development board, or it could be the employment and human services department, which is what workforce development board falls under. Pre-release, of course, is ORJ. And then I'm not sure what engagement is. I think that's across the board. I think that's sort of engaging people while they're still in, I'm thinking.
yes,
Yeah, so that would just be, anybody. And that actually, you guys, a lot of what you're discussing mirrors what was discussed at yesterday's. Tell me what meeting that we were in yesterday, Monique, the CAB.
Programs and Services.
Exactly.
I wasn't
Yeah.
there, but yeah, that was the meeting yesterday.
Okay, yeah, so there was a lot of discussion about surveys, adjusting questions, and in fact, they're going to put together a survey for those people who are in our detention system to find out from their perspective what would be helpful for them.
okay. So, okay, thank you. So hearing that, Justin, will we want to add an action item to identify who those county staff people are as an action item? Because we'll have to identify who we'll have to work with, right?
So I think I misunderstood previously, and I think this might need to be shifted. So correct me if I'm wrong, but I was under the impression that it would be a little more detailed on our recommendation of like how much money should be increased in each of these areas. And I don't know that I'm hearing that that's necessarily it, but it's more of a generalization of the data is supporting that we need more beds, we need more mental health services, we need more of this. And that then CCP then makes a recommendation of how to allocate those funds. And so my addition here is with regard to understanding the unspent funds moving forward, how much should be spent, so that way we can create an informed budget based on that. So this
Yes.
isn't necessarily with the specific departments. This is more of like a county's approach overall with unspent funds in different departments.
Right, so that's a different process completely and out of the jurisdiction of what you're doing.
Got it.
There will be a discussion on how much of those funds to spend and which direction. And what you all are doing is sort of jumping ahead, which is what you want to do, and say, these are the areas we've identified, boots on the ground, and working with those divisions so that when that discussion happens, you have alignment with those divisions to ask for more funding out of that pot.
Great. So I think I have clarity now. I appreciate that, Jill. So I actually think we can remove this last section.
Wait, but I actually like the fact you put it there because I like the spill that Jill put.
Okay, hold on. Let me
Mhm.
ask a clarifying question. Are we on this section or this section?
The
The
last
last
one.
section.
So did we make any changes to this one?
We kept the
Green.
language in green.
Okay, and then would it be all here?
Yes.
Okay,
So, but
okay. So now I'm down with you guys on this one.
But
Okay.
Justin, what do you, I got really excited when I heard, even though that wasn't your intention, I got really excited where we kind of went with it, and how Jill explained it in reference, because you know what I read with the housing, behavioral, employment, pre-release and engagement, and actually meeting with the county staff for that particular section and learning their best practices can be beneficial as well. Or Jill and Monique, or is that double doing the work if programs and services are already doing that, do a survey? Are we pretty much?
Yeah, so just understanding the budget process, there's X amount of funds and there's so many departments, and you all know who sits on the CCP. And so when anybody says, oh, we've got excess funds, how should we spend them? You can almost be guaranteed that every single one of those departments has an ask, an unfunded program that they would love to see funds toward. So what you're doing is saying, we have these survey results from the boots on the ground, and we think that extra funding should be spent in these areas to fill those gaps. And so you're aligning yourself with those departments who are then hopefully have programming and or interest in putting programming in place to fill those gaps. And so that the funds can be going in the direction that you all have recognized is underfunded.
Okay. I think that's a great addition to our work plan. What do you think, Justin? I got excited when she was.
So Nicole, the recommendation is to meet with those specific departments. And would we do that following the results from the survey? Because
So
maybe
it'll
a
be
little more clarity would be helpful. The survey is to individuals or to CBOs or both or to departments, all of the above?
CBOs, agencies, they aren't to individuals, they're to the agencies that serve the population.
Got it.
They're
So then
to all the funded parties out of the AB 109 budget. So both CBOs and county departments. Everybody who's funded gets the survey.
Understood.
And this next year, they're looking at doing 2 surveys. The original survey, and as well as a second survey to survey the actual individuals who are in detention to determine where they see the gaps and where they need more assistance. So, but I think that this work item is based on last year's survey.
Correct.
So you're not waiting for this next year's survey. That will feed into
okay.
the next budget cycle.
So we would pretty much take the last year's survey, and another good thing would be how we broke down that recommendation document. And
So I align, Nicole. I think that would be a great opportunity and use of time.
so
And then let
go
me
ahead,
just
Nicole.
add one more thing. So there's 2 things happening here, right? So you're looking at how to allocate the excess funds using last year's survey results. Then once this year's surveys are done, you will then be building a budget for next year. So there's two things happening here at once.
Great.
So thank you, Jill, so much for that. Monique, quick question. So you know how outreach and and Crawford, you can, if I forgot the name of it, but you know how we do how outreach and search put that document together where we reach out to, what, we put it in our agenda last time. God, I wish I
The
had it.
ambassador report?
Thank you. So
Okay.
you know how they create the the verbiage and the
It's
document of
the
who to reach
talking
out.
points, I think, is what you're
Yeah.
referring to. The
Would we
talking
be-
points.
Yes, but will we be able to create something like that here? So that we have verbiage and know exactly who those key people are that we talk to have something left for, for people going forward on this last item that we did? So
You
it can be more structured.
you certainly can create something. I don't know if which department, which group would create it, but someone can definitely create the talking points. I mean, you could
Nicole?
probably use some of the information from the existing talking points.
Yeah, Nicole, I can work with you. If you just
Okay.
share what you need, why don't you and we can do that offline.
Okay,
Or if you want to, at one of your next meetings, I'll get prepared, and the three of us, you, me, Justin, will noodle through it, see what you want. And then I'll go through some of the older documents and grab some of the verbiage, and you tell me what you need and how you want it formatted, and I'll work with you. How's that?
that'll be great. That way we have like a standing document verbiage on what we're using when we're reaching out to these county staff members, so it can be more structured. I think would be a good idea. What do you think, Justin?
Well,
Oh, go
yeah,
ahead. I'm
and
sorry, Jill.
I was just going to say, and to add to that, you also probably want to share the surveys, the
Okay.
survey results with those, because that's what the conversation's based on. Is not necessarily what your goals are overall, but really just specifically for this pot of funds, what those survey results showed.
Okay.
So Monique, maybe we rewrite the expected outcome. So it's meeting with county staff, and maybe we spell out who those departments are. And it's to share last year's survey results.
Okay, can you say that again, please?
Yeah, it's to share last year's survey results. And then what would then be the outcome, Nicole? So if we're sharing the survey results, what do we want our takeaway to be? To better understand how they would utilize unspent funds.
Yes. And hopefully, let's see, I wrote down some things I'm running towards.
So I think
To
we can
fill-
take out the
to
rest
fill
of that.
gaps.
Monique.
To
To fill gaps in services.
I
Say
was
it
trying
again,
to write
Jill.
down everything Jill was saying. To help fill gaps in services, she said.
Okay, perfect.
Is it gaps in services?
Correct.
IN?
Can we also add to help, I mean, I don't know, can we do that, Jill, to help align with our recommendations as well?
Of course, yeah. Because the ultimate goal, right, is to address recidivism.
Yeah, okay.
Is that good, or should I change it a little bit? To help, to align with the recommendations of CAP?
That's good. There'll be each individual right meet with the county staff to share last year's survey results as one, to help fill gaps in services two, an outcome to align with the recommendations of CAP. Yes, move forward on. Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Would this be all?
That would be all.
And maybe once we, I don't know how you feel about that, Nicole, but once we identify those specific departments, maybe we define who would be meeting with which departments. We all don't have to.
I'm on the same page with you. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Is once we get it broken down, then we can kind of assign a person to a particular area.
That'd be great.
Okay. So Crawford, I'll do two things. I'll reach out to you individually so I can tell you exactly what I what I was thinking, and then just have it in that way. So when we have our next committee, you know exactly what I was referring to, and we could all come and decide how we want that. I just think it'd be better if we have some kind of outline verbiage and something left for the next members that come along for this action item.
Okay, are you, then would you just give me a call and we'll pull out some of our old scripts and narratives and we'll alter them. And we'll alter them so that they feed into the specific points you've mentioned. How's that?
Okay.
Okay.
And I want to add something too. This part where it says meet with county staff, this may be able to be done via email. Because
Right.
when you think about it, you're sharing last year's survey results, which they may already have the information. So you could meet with them via email to follow up to find out the information. That's what I'm thinking. Because I think you might think of time as being time is of the essence. You may not really have the capability to specifically set up a meeting with the individual. So via email might work, or even via Zoom might work. Just depending on your schedule.
Well, I was thinking this, thinking the same, yeah, Zoom or in person, or I was just thinking of the ambassador, you know, how that process that we use will be a good process to use in this section.
Mm-hmm.
Having that verbiage when we email out, you know, a standard verbiage for CAB that we email out to set up a call, just making it more organized so that we're all using the same thing would be great. And if we could do a Zoom, we could do in person, great. Or if it's email, however we can communicate. But just my goal is having that standard process like the ambassador meeting.
Yeah, I think that's great. And I think it would depend on probably the department and the individual on how they want to respond. So I think having that broad approach is wonderful.
Yep. So any other additions to it? I'm okay with what right now.
I would just add a complicating factor to this, since there's only two of you that create a quorum. If the two of you were to meet with department heads on, or, you know, with the correct person within each department on this issue, it would be a quorum of the subcommittee. So
it'd have to be one person per agency, right?
One person, or you could invite all the different people to one meeting to have that conversation.
Okay.
Because I don't think a decision is going to be made at the next CCP meeting. I think that the subject is going to be brought up at the next CCP meeting. I'd be surprised if a decision is made, since there hasn't been discussion about it really. So it just might be something.
That's a good idea, Jill, because I know, like in the past, we talked about the different CBOs coming and presenting at CAB. So you could invite them to your subcommittee to discuss the issue.
Yeah, you have some pretty key departments there. And the invitation would go through the division head. So behavioral health would be Suzanne Tavano, and employment would be Marla Stewart, employment and human service. And then they could decide if there's a person within their division that they would send to have that conversation. And Christy Saxton would be health, housing, and homeless.
So Jill, where would we get, thank you for providing that, but where would we actually get, where can we find the names, or is that something that you can provide?
No, I can send them to Monique. Yeah. Okay. It's just the division heads. So.
Yeah, I was trying to keep up with you and I stopped. If you can see my little scratch paper right now.
I will send an email to each one of them and CC Monique on it to connect them all together.
Okay, perfect.
Two quick questions following up on that, Jill. One on technicality of quorum. Does that include emails as well if like I CC Nicole on correspondence?
Yep, you can't do that, not with this, because there's only 2 that makes a quorum. If you have more members, I mean, ideally you would have 3 that make a quorum, so you'd have 5 members on this board or 4
Yeah,
or on the subcommittee. So that way you don't run into that. You could have a 2-person working group, but with
okay.
quorum only
But
being
I
2,
could
you don't need-
CC another like I could CC Crawford. Because he's not part of the subcommittee.
Yeah, I don't think the bylaws were changed to make him stand in. Were they, Crawford, those bylaws?
Not yet.
Okay,
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
you- but-
you can communicate, he can communicate with me because I am not on this committee. I'm just a
And
fly
you-
on the wall here. That's
and
all.
you could always CC Monique on everything, so she can,
Okay.
she has it.
Wonderful. And then my second was a follow-up with regard to inviting department heads and or someone that they feel could fill in a role to our meetings. Do you feel that most departments are receptive to that type of invitation, or is there another approach that you would recommend?
They'll be receptive.
Okay, great.
I'm excited about that item.
I am too. That'll be really
Yeah.
fun.
All right, thank you, Jill, for that input. We really appreciate it. Any other additions before we move on? Let me look at the time. I think we're at a good point right now.
We are 15 minutes. So Nicole, what I would suggest is you've made the changes, you and Justin have made changes, and then allow me to put it in a final draft form, take
Okay.
away all these colors and, kind of consolidate it and show it to Patrice. And
Okay.
then at the next meeting, we bring it back to be voted on. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So what I will do is, I'll go back to the agenda. Just one moment, please. Hold on one second. I have to find my agenda where I had it.
Thank you. So the last item on our agenda is to discuss our next steps. So our next step is what we just talked about is creating a document of talking points for our last item on our work plan. Our next meeting. And then also to vote on our 2023 work plan.
And Monique, you'll be able to share that out in advance, correct? Or does that come out as part of the agenda?
No, I can certainly share it to you guys. I can blind copy you and show the draft of the with the changes that were made today.
That'd be great.
Okay.
Thank you. Because would we need to make recommendations for changes ahead of that meeting so it could then get approved at the meeting?
You could do it either way. You can
Oh,
do it ahead of time and say, oh, Monique, no, we said this versus that, or we could do it during the meeting. I mean, I think that's a great idea to do it ahead of time, particularly not like adding new things, but maybe it wasn't typed correctly with the
Great.
intent.
Awesome. Thank you.
Mhm.
I think those are the only two main next step items for our next call. Yep, that's all I have.
Just a question, the survey results from last year's programs and services, was that compiled in like a digestible form to be shared out? I don't think I
Yes.
remember seeing that.
Yes, it was definitely yesterday for the programs and services, I put in the raw data
Uh-huh.
that they had. We can definitely, I could send you their agenda with the item in it.
You want to see it in our next call too, Justin, or
What was that?
do you want to have it added to review it in our next call, or you want to see it beforehand?
Either way, I was
Okay.
just kind of curious to see it. So whether it comes in our next agenda, that's great. If you want to just send it independently, Monique, that would be wonderful too.
Well, how about we just add it? So you can send it to him, but let's add it. I like the discussion because all of it is, you're just now seeing it. So I like to have that dialogue so we can get prepared for July to put everything together. So any documents that you have not seen yet that you think would be a great idea to see, definitely ask for them, and then we can add them to the agenda so that we can discuss as a group. It's nice, to have a fresh set of eyes on it. So I think we can just add that one on there too, Monique, for next steps.
Okay, I have it listed now.
Thanks, Nicole.
No problem. I think I captured everything for our next steps. Yep. That's it. Any questions or any additions or anything before we're a little bit early, Monique, it's 12:19.
Good job. Good job. I mean, it was definitely well spent. You guys did a great job.
Thank you. So at 12:19, anything in additions or anything, Justin, before we move on?
No, I'm really happy with where that document landed. I think we made a lot of headway and really detailed some of our tangible next steps. So happy to collaborate and continue working on
Thank you. How about the public?
I have 12:21.
it.
Your clock, I'll go with your clock because your clock is 1 minute faster than mine.
Okay.
So there's no any questions or anything. So am I okay to adjourn, Monique?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Good
so
job.
at 12:21, I will adjourn to our next subcommittee meeting on March 17th. I see you all there. Have a great 3-day weekend.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, you all as
You
well.
too.
Bye-bye.